My name is Rafael Tirado, and I'm going to be conducting this advanced conditional formatting in Excel training. So let me start by sharing the learning objectives for today. Here are the learning objectives. So in today's class, participants will learn to find duplicate values in a list using formulas, and of course using the conditional formatting. You're going to learn how to use slicers on a pivot table to control conditional formatting, and we're also going to use combo boxes and formulas to apply conditional formatting. Okay, so it's a lot we have to cover for the day. And let me just do a sound check. Just want to make sure you guys are listening to me. Just give me a check on the chat, so so I can continue. Just open the chat and tell me how is the sound coming on. Anyone in the chat, please. All right, very good. All right, I got you. Beautiful. Oh, thank you so much. All right. All right, so let's once again, let's get started with the learning objective. So again, today is all about conditional formatting, right? But you saw the class called advanced conditional formatting. But before we even get into the advanced portion of conditional formatting, let me just make sure everybody knows what conditional formatting is in Excel. Okay, so conditional formatting in Excel is a function that allows you to format data based on conditions. Right, so of course, that's why it's called conditional formatting, right? So you tell Excel to format a range, but apply the formatting that you specify only on cells that match the condition or the criteria that you specified. So you see two illustrations over here. So the one on the right, I created this before the class. What I did is I took a bunch of numbers there, so they are representing cells. And what I asked Excel to do was just to highlight with the green color background those values that exceed 300,000. So if the value is over 300,000, then Excel formatted with that green color. So you notice the numbers over there, all the ones with the background color are the ones that went over 300,000. So there are a few entries over here that are exactly 300,000. So this won't be formatted because it doesn't go over. So I could have specified greater than or equal to, but I'm just sharing with you, I just use the greater than. On the other side over here, you have also a bunch of values over here. So if you look at the fee column in here, what I asked Excel to do is just to identify the figures on this list that are above 20%, the top 20% based on these numbers. So what Excel does is just pick those on the 20% at the highest level. The next one over here, it's highlighting the figures above average. So again, Excel will, throw a formula over here with these numbers, find the average of those entries, and then those numbers that are above the average will be formatted with the green color that you see over here. There's another illustration over here for the bottom 10. So all this formatting is possible to do with the conditional formatting, and we're gonna see how it's done. Another scenario we're gonna have over here is, let's say you have a list of IDs. You have employee IDs. Let's pretend this is the BSc ID. You have a BSc ID list, and you want to see within this list which values are duplicated, right? So you can clearly see here that the number 80 is twice, and because it is a duplicate, then Excel is doing special formatting on those duplicated numbers. So that's something you can easily do with the conditional formatting, and you have probably some of you may have probably done it before. What I like to do today is I like to show you how to do that using your own formula and not just the procedure that Excel does for you. And the advantage of that is there will be instances in which Excel is going to be limited as what it can do for you. So learning those formulas is going to help you in cases like if you now have, let's say now instead of one list, right, you have two lists, right? And you want to identify which numbers are on list number one and also on number two, okay? So you're going to see how the use of formulas over here is going to be of benefit to you. Another case over here is when you have a list of, look at these employees over here with, different fields, right? So in this case, we want to highlight at any point either the male or the female population, okay? We're going to do it with conditional formatting, but what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to show you an easy way to create these so-called slicers, okay? And so with the slicers, there will be some interaction with the user. The user can just click on the letter M for males or F for female. And as the user makes a selection, then Excel is going to respond with conditional formatting and do the formatting. And is there any way I can watch this class later or some other day once the class is finished? Yes, all these classes, Eddie, are being recorded. And then after the class is finished, I'm going to follow up with an email. And the email will have the links where you can go and get the, watch the video, okay? It may take a few days for the video unit to edit the video, but, in about 2-3 days, you can go there and replay the class, yes. All right, so next over here, we're gonna do another exercise very similar to this, but now instead of the slicer, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a combo box, a drop down, whatever you wanna call them, where you can also make selections from there. And as you make the selection, again, a conditional formatting in Excel is gonna respond to your selections, and based on your selections is going to apply the format that you specify. So in this particular case, where I'm going to let you select the title of the individual over here, and based on that selection, then anyone who has that particular title within the list will receive the formatting that you specified with conditional formatting in Excel. Okay, so again, there's a lot to cover in 1 hour, so let's get to it now. So the first scenario over here is about finding duplicates. So let me open the Excel file that I'm also going to share with you, Eddie, and everybody else. So you have the chance to download this Excel file, and then you see right here at the bottom, I created different tabs for each one of the exercises we're going to do today, right? So they go from 1 to 6, and this is what I'm going to be showing you today. But also, then I have the same exercises here going again from 1 to 6, but now this is the result. So this is the completed exercise. So if you're practicing, you get stuck, you can go back and then just get the exercise from the completed exercise from one of these tabs over here. All right. So let's start with the first one. Okay. Repeated values. So this is something you probably have to do on a list. So again, pretending this you have a list of BSc IDs right there, and you want to quickly identify the duplicated entries, right? So what you need to do is, first of all, of course, you're going to select the data that contains the information that you want to highlight or that you want to apply special format to, right? And then right here on the Home tab of Excel, right here on the Styles group, you have the icon for conditional formatting, okay? So I'm going to use one of the preset formulas that are built into the conditional formatting function. So if I go to conditional formatting, there's different categories over here, but look at the first one that says highlight cells rules. That's the one that I'm going to use because one of the options over here is to highlight cells that contains duplicates, okay? And you're gonna see how easy this is, right? So I just go to highlight cells, duplicate values. So now Excel is gonna look at my selection and you see right away, Excel highlighted the duplicates. Okay, so 80, I was pointing to it before. It's here, it's there, and there is even another entry over here for the number 80. So it's automatically selected, right? So this is what I call the built-in formulas already in Excel. So if it is the case that this is what you need to do, I don't want you to even bother with the functions, with the formulas that I place over here, right? So don't need to bother with this. This is the easy way. That's how you're supposed to do it, okay? However, I'm going to show you the formulas once again for a reason, because you may use it on a different scenario, okay? But going back over here to the duplicate values option. So your options over here, you can change the color. So if you don't want the light red color, you can go to yellow just to select the duplicates. Another nice option you have here is that instead of showing duplicates, you can show unique values, right? So now you look at the selection over here, and those values that are not duplicated are the ones that are being highlighted with the yellow fill color that I selected. Okay, so you have those two options, unique or duplicate. Once you make up your mind, you click OK, and now all the duplicators will have that particular formatting. Okay. Now, also, once you have a conditional formatting rule already applied on your spreadsheet, if you need to remove it or if you need to edit it, you just go to conditional formatting, you go back there, conditional formatting, you go to manage rules, okay? And then, or actually, if we just want to clear the rule, you just don't even have to go to manage. I mean, you can go there and delete it, but you can also go to clear rules, right? And if you have a selection, see you see that I didn't make the selection. So if I just wanted to remove the rules that affect these cells, then again I can go to conditional formatting, clear rules, and then just remove the rules that affect that particular selection. Okay, but I also have the option here to clear any other rule that I have established for this particular worksheet. So I'm gonna use that option now. Okay, and now what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna do the same exercise, but now I'm gonna build my formula. Okay, so the formula that I want to use over here, okay, it's basically asking Excel to give me a count of repeated values within a range. Okay, so some of you may be familiar with a function in Excel that is used to count with conditions. Okay, so you may be familiar with count, right? So count, if I use a count function and I just select the range, so it's just going to give me a whole count of my selection. So there are 19 entries over here. Not a big deal, right? But there is another function that counts with conditions. So that's called count if. Okay, so count if, it's still going to count, but it's going to count based on the condition that you specify. So I'm going to say in this range, okay, and that's what the that's what this argument over here refers to. Okay, so the range is where the count is going to take place. The criteria is, let's ask Excel to count on this range only BSC IDs that equals 80. Okay, so that will be my criteria. How do I enter my criteria? I got two options over here. I can, and of course, I got to use the comma separator, right? So every time you are using a function, then you use a comma to go from one argument to another. Okay, so my criteria over here, I could say count all the instances of the number 80, right? But then I will have to manually do it for 52, for 26, for 99, and so on. So instead of using the number 80, I'm going to click on one cell that contains number 80. In this case, I can use cell B2. Okay. Once I do so, hit the enter key, and now I get 3 entries over here that contains the number 80. And that is true, right? I showed you before that the number 80 is repeated it's actually repeated 2 times, meaning it has 3 entries with the number 80, right? And that's what the formula is giving me here. Now, question in the chat, can I copy this formula down so I can get the number of entries for the number 52, 74, 15, and so on? Just a yes or no in the chat. Can I copy this down? Yes, I could, right? I got one yes in the chat. Anybody else? Anybody else who wants to say something about copying the formula down to the next cell? So the answer is yes, I could copy it down, right? Now the thing is you have to be careful as you copy that formula down. Okay. Yes, this and that's how you do it, right? You just drag it down all the way, right? And why do I say you have to be careful with copying the formula? Because you're talking about cell references over here, right? So your formula refers to the range B2, B20, and then find the entries for cell B2, right? Once again, B2, that's where you have the number 80. So what I'm saying is when you copy down, you got to tell Excel that this range over here is what we call an absolute reference, okay? An absolute reference is a range that you want Excel to keep always the same cell reference. You don't want that cell reference to change if you copy the formula down, right? So if you don't tell Excel that this is an absolute reference cell, then what's going to happen is when you copy this down, that B2, B20 you see over here is going to become B3, B21, right? Because every time you copy a formula down, then the row reference updates by 1. So just watch me over here. If I copy just one time, you see right here on the new formula. So now I no longer have B20, B2, B20. Now I have B3, B21, right? And what's going to happen now, the range will start from here down and it's going to leave out the first 80. So that's why the count over here now reflects 2 instead of 3. Okay, so just be mindful about that. You have to tell Excel, let me go back here. You have to tell Excel before you copy this formula down, make this an absolute reference range. And how do I do that? How do I make this range over here an absolute reference? Anybody knows? Let me know in the chat. How do I tell Excel that this range over here should remain always the same range? Yep, that's the dollar sign. So I'm glad some of you are familiar with the concept. So let me just move forward over here and put the dollar sign. As I'm putting there, what is the magic key for me to get the dollar sign on the cell reference? F with question mark, Adam, you're close, the function key F4. Okay, so I can just go there and hit F4. Of course, I can add the dollar sign myself, right? But hitting F4 will place the dollar signs in there for me. Okay, so once I do that, oops, I didn't press enter. And I'm hitting the run function key over here. So once I take care of this, yes, now I can copy the formula down and I can see now which values are repeated, right? Of course, the values that are repeated on the list are those that show a number over here out of the count that is greater than 1. Okay, and this is great because now I can use this concept over here to create my own formula. So basically, I'm going to go back with conditional formatting and I'm going to tell Excel, look, if I use this formula here, right, and I get a result that is greater than 1, that means that's a duplicate. And to that duplicate, I want you to apply a specific format, right? So how do I do this? Very simple. I just select the range, okay? Go back to conditional formatting. And this time, I'm not going to go with the presets over here. I'm going to go to new rule. And I'm going to, you know what? Even to save me time, what I could do is I could copy this formula, right? The one that I know that is working, that provides with the count. So let me repeat the process here. Conditional formatting. Now I go to new rule And then I select over here, use a formula to determine which cells to format, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste my formula over here. Okay, so that's a formula that you saw me copying on cell C2. And I'm going to tell Excel, look, if using this formula returns a value that is over greater than 1, then I know that's a duplicate. Okay, and because that is a duplicate, I'm going to tell you over here which format I want you to use. So I'm going to click on format, and then, now it's up to me if I want, whichever background color I want, if I want borders on those cells, if I want the font to be bolded, italic, and on and on. So I can apply my format over here. But what's really important is the formula that you saw me creating right here. Okay, so remember, B2 doesn't have to have the $sign because that's going to change, right? So you want Excel to go through all the cells on this range, right? And then first analyze for B2, then for B3, for B4, or B5, and so on. Okay, and only when you get duplicates, when you get when the value returns greater than 1, then the formatting option that I specify is going to apply. Okay, so I'm going to click OK now, and look at this, right? The same result, right? The same numbers are going to be highlighted, but now with the format that I specify and with the formula that I created. Okay, now why is it important that I that you learn how to use these formulas? You're going to see on the next scenario over here. So I'm going to switch now to number 2. Okay, and again, we're going to use similar concept over here now to compare, but now we're going to find duplicates among two or between two different lists. Okay, so now you have list number 1. Again, let's pretend these are BSC IDs, or whichever numbers, whichever IDs, but now you want to find which IDs are on list number 1 and also on number 2. Okay, now if I use the first option that I showed you before, in other words, if I select all these cells over here and I go to conditional formatting and I go to highlight cell rules and I click on duplicate values and I apply this option here, this is going to work. It's going to kind of work like halfway, right? And what I mean by that is some of the numbers are going to be identified as repeated on list number 1 and list number 2, and that's the case with the 100. That's okay, all right. 110, it's also highlighted because it's on list number 1 and 2 times on list number 2, right? Now, with 116 over here, okay, that we're gonna have a problem with this, okay, because 116, and by the way, you notice that I put the numbers in descending order, so easier for you to look, right? That 116 is highlighted because it is a duplicate, right? But it's a duplicate on list number 1, right? Not necessarily 116 is on list number 2, right? So in this particular exercise, 116 is not a number that I would like to see highlighted because even though it's repeated on list number 1, it is not repeated on on list number 2, right? But if you use the preset option that we have on conditional formatting, this is what you're going to get. Okay. I also remember in one class before, somebody asked me if I could identify the repeated IDs on list number 2 that are repeated more than once, as it is the case with 110. And when you do this with formulas, then the answer is yes. You can just highlight not just the ones that are on list 1 and 2, but the ones that are list on 1 and on 2, they appear more than once. Okay, so that's the power you have when you start building these formulas. Okay, so now how will you do that with a formula? Well, first of all, let me go back to conditional formatting. And as I did before, I'm going to clear this rule. So I'm going to clear the old rule from the entire sheet. So let's try again to use the account function that we used before. Okay, so let's try equals count if. Okay, so now let's say on this range, right, because this is the range that will have the duplicate. So on the range of list 2, okay, so go there. And so now let's put the comma for the criteria. And let's see if the 100, so the first entry on cell A2, if 100 is found on list number 2. So let me click on A2, okay? And I'm gonna close, hit enter, okay? And I get a 1 over here. And the 1 indicates that this 100 was found on list number 2. So that indicates that is a duplicate. Okay. What I like to do is to copy this formula down. But then, of course, before I copy the formula, I'm going to go back and make this an absolute range as we did before. Okay. And now let's see if it worked for the next entry over here, which is 102. So when I copy down, okay, is 100 and 102 on this list? It is not, and that's why the formula gives me a 0. Okay. And as I now copied it all the way down, right? Now I got ones, I got zeros. Okay, I even got a 2 over here for 110, right? 110 is special case because remember, 110 is 2 times on list number 2. So that's why for 110, I get the answer of 2. Okay, but now with this formula, I can combine it with conditional formatting, right? And I can just, again, I can go back here, copy it and paste it. And what I'm going to say now is if using this formula, give me a result that is greater than 0, okay? Because it have to be greater than 0. So if it gives me a result that is greater than 0, then I know it is a duplicate on this list. So I will tell Excel to apply a specific format, okay? So let me do it now. Again, I'm just going to copy this formula to gain time here. So Control C. And then I'm going to select the list that I want to have formatted, right? So I just make my selection, go to condition formatting, new rule. So I'm going to create again a new rule using a formula, and then I'm going to paste the formula right there. Okay, that's the same formula you saw on cell C2. But now I gotta say, if the results of applying this formula give me a number that is greater than 0, then I'm going to specify my formatting. And the format over here could be something just as simple as fill color like this. Click OK, and voila. So now you have the numbers on list number 1 that are also on list number 2, and this time around 116 is not part of the mix, okay, because 116 obviously is not on list number 2, okay. But there you have it, one case where knowing how to include a formula on the conditional formatting is going to be of your advantage, okay. So that's the first 2 scenarios over here, and everything is looking clear. No questions in the chat. So far, so good. So let's move down to scenario number 3. Okay. So number 3, it's again, it's going to be a little tweak over here to the formula that's going to make it even more interesting. So here's the idea with scenario number 3. So again, we're going to have Excel do a conditional formatting, okay, on a list. So now we have products over here. So there is a product ID, there is a price, there is a unit, and the subtotal. But the idea is that if a user wants to take a look at one particular product ID, so let's say number 10, and he goes, we're going to provide the user with this cell over here where they can type in whichever whichever product, right, they want to focus on. So let's say they put number 5, and then number 5 is this product over here. So as they type number 5, this cell over here will be highlighted just to call the user attention, right? So as they type 5, let's say you want that column like this, okay? But the idea is that, you know, once they come back here, type 11, then it is going to be now 11, the one that is going to be highlighted, okay? So that's the idea. Now, how do you do this with conditional formatting? Now, with conditional formatting, you can select the range, or you can do it just for one column. So either way, but if you select, let's say you select the range over here and say, oh, let's first do it with the presets, right? So believe me, if anytime you're using conditional formatting, there's an option over here that you can use. Yeah, by all means, you can go with that function rather with that option, sorry, rather than, you know, breaking your head with formulas and so on. So let's see if there is an option over here for this case. So what we want to do here is we want to highlight cells that are equal to, right? So for the equal to, I'm going to pick the equal to over here, okay? And I'm going to say any cell on my selection, right, that equals the number on B1, which is the number 5 right now, I wanted to have it highlighted, right? So if I click OK, boom, you see product ID number 5 highlighted because that's the one that the user put on on cell B1. If I go to B1 and now I type 10, then 10 is highlighted. So it's working right now. My only problem with using the presets over here is that that's going to let me highlight only the product ID. What if I want the entire cell, the entire row for product ID to be highlighted, right? Because that would probably be easier for the user to identify it, right? So what if I want the entire row highlighted? I won't be able to do that with the options on the presets. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do it with a formula. So again, I'm going to clear the rule over here. Okay, and now let's try to do it by building a formula over here. So let me just, again, select the range. All right, let's go to conditional formatting. And now let's create our rule. So I'm going to start with new rule. Use a formula to determine which cells to format. So initially, I'm going to do it as Excel does it, which is I'm going to say if the value for this formula, I'm sorry, if cell B10, okay, equals, and I'm going to put the first cell over here, A3. Okay, now A3, if I click on cell A3, okay, Excel will give me the $ for cell A3. So I got to make sure I go there and I take those $signs. As a matter of fact, what I usually do is I just type it in A3. Okay, why I cannot use the $signs on A3? Because I want Excel to go to each one of these cells within the range, right? If I lock the column and the row, then Excel will always look just Excel A3, and because I don't have 10 on cell A3, then I will never get a match. Again, if I just leave it as Excel was doing when I click on cell A3, I click OK, there's not going to be any formatting over here, right? Because Excel was always comparing B3 against, B1 against A3, and the values there are 10 and 1. There's not a match, so that won't work. So let me go back now. And what I'm going to do the second time, I'm going to go to Manage Rules. My rule is here. What I want to do is I want to edit this rule. Okay, so I'm going to leave it without the $signs. Okay, so that means Excel is going to travel through each one of these cells and compare the values on within the cell, right? So if I click OK, boom, it should Oops, it didn't do 8. It should have done at least 812. Let me see why it didn't do it. Let me try it again. Format, manage rules, and then, well, besides the fact that the formula is fine, right? The formula is correct. Okay. Let me ask in the chat. Okay, see if you're following me here. If I tell you that the formula is correct, but I didn't get any formatting of my selection, why did that happen? What's happening over here? Of course, very good, Adam. I need to give a format, right? I didn't specify the format. I was so concentrated on the formula that I forgot to go and say, hey, if there is a match, I want specific format over here. So now that I have the format and I click OK, and I click OK again, so now I see that cell A12 was properly formatted. Okay, so now let me also highlight the range and go back to conditional formatting and edit the rule so you can verify that, as I did before with the $sign, it didn't work. Not just because I forgot to specify the format, but just because Excel was locked with cell A3. So once again, if I go back to A3, this time around, I do have a format. But if I do click OK now and then OK again, then you notice that the formatting goes away from there, right? Because Excel was always looking at cell A3 only. Okay. So now, one more time, and this time I promise you, now we're gonna get the formatting for the entire row. Okay, but this is how we're gonna do it. So let's go back to conditional formatting. So now I go to manage rules, and then again, because I have to edit this rule, and what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna change the $sign over here, and I'm gonna remove it from the row reference, and I'm going to leave it only with the column. So my formula is going to read like this. Okay. So B1 equals A with the $sign means I'm locking the values on column A, right? The only reference that is changing is the row. If I click OK here, and then I click OK again, there you go. The entire cell is the entire row is highlighted. Why? Let me try to explain this here. So let me take you back to the formula. Okay. Why is it working when I lock the column and then I unlock the row? So here is what's going to happen. So with this formula in place, again, keep the concept that we're telling Excel to lock the values of column A. What that means is that Excel still going to go, or Excel still have to travel to each cell within the selected range, right? So Excel is going to go first to cell A3, right? And then on cell A3 is going to do a comparison, and it's going to check if the value here equals the value on B10. Of course, it doesn't. Then there is no formatting for this cell. And then we'll do it for the next, the next, the next, and then it will eventually get here, right? So this is cell A12. And now when Excel does the comparison, it finds a match and it say, okay, so this cell have to be formatted, right? And then it will continue with all the cells on column A. Eventually, it will come to the first value right here on column B, right? So this is cell B3. Now, what's going to happen over here is very interesting, because once Excel gets to cell B3, right, Excel is not going to compare 300 against 10. Okay. Instead, what Excel is going to do, because again, remember I said we are locking we're locking column A, right? So what Excel is going to do is, instead of looking at 300, Excel is going to look at the value on column A on the same row. Okay. So again, instead of comparing B3, Excel is going to compare the value of cell A3. Still, there is no match, right? Because 1 is not equal to 10. Then this cell over here won't get the formatting, but then Excel is going to keep going to each one of these cells, and then eventually it's going to reach cell B12. Okay. Again, on cell B12, Excel is not going to compare the value of this cell, but rather the value of the cell on the same row, but on column A. Okay, so here is going to find the match, but this is the cell that Excel is going to format. Okay, so that's the power of locking the values on column A, and that's the reason why we're going to end up with all the values of this cell formatted with the formatting that you specified. Okay, so is that clear? I hope so. You click OK, and now all the entries over here get highlighted. And then again, this is something that you can do only when you are specifying the conditional formatting with your own rule, okay, with the one that we created over here. All right. So with this concept, we're going to use it again later, because remember, there will be some other there will be some other scenarios over here where we want to select, we want to highlight all the values on one particular row. Okay. So remember, locking the column will allow you to highlight all the rows within that particular with that for the values in that column that match the cell that you're comparing to. Okay, so let's move on to option number 4 now. So option number 4, now we have employees with IDs and different fields over here. Okay, what we want to do on this case is we want to give a user an option to select either males or females. Okay, and once the user select a male option, then all the entries over here that contain male employees are going to be highlighted, are going to be formatted whichever format you specify, right? And then when they switch to female, then only the females will be highlighted. What's different over here is that I'm going to provide you with this so-called slicer, which is something that we get when we create pivot tables. If you are not familiar with the concept of pivot table, there's going to be a class tomorrow online, and there's going to be another class at 1:30 Livingston next week. Okay, but here's how you easily create a pivot table. So you just need to go over to the table where you want to insert a pivot table. So I just go to the insert menu, and there's an option over here for pivot table. So I'm just going to click there. Okay. So now the pivot table that I'm creating, I could create it in a new worksheet, or I can create it on the worksheet that I'm working on, which is what I'm going to do right now. What will be the location? I want to place it right here on cell A13. So I'm going to click there, click OK, and that's the process for at least getting started with a pivot table. So pivot tables are really used to summarize data, right? So especially when you have fields with different entries, like over here, if you have departments, if you have titles, I can easily summarize my, let's start with titles. If I click titles, right? So you see over here, I get a list of all the titles within the different entries on the title field. If I uncheck this and now I click on the sex field, then I got the 2 choices over there for that field. Okay, since this is the one that I want to provide the slicer on, I'm going to stick with this one. Okay, another thing that we do with pivot table, again, it's just about summarizing data. So if it is the case that I bring the employee down over to the values, right, I can easily get a count, right? I got 5 females, I got 5 male for a grand total of 10. Okay, but I'm getting too much into pivot table now. So just wait for Marita, she will teach you more on that. What I want to do now with pivot table, I'm going to remove the employee from here. What I want to do is I want to use the concept of the slicer. Okay, so I'm going to click on insert slicer, and I'm going to get a slicer for the sex field. I'm going to click OK, and that's very simple. Now I got what I wanted. What I needed was just this for the users to either click on F for female, M for male. Okay. What I want you to also see is that once a user makes a selection, whatever they select, that selection is going to reflect right here on cell A14. Okay, that's why my formula over here uses A14. If you place your pivot table in another cell, then just gotta adjust the formulas over here on when you're using the conditional formatting. Okay, but this is all I wanted to just create over here for the users. All right, so now that I have what I need, I'm gonna go and select the range. Okay, and as I did before with the previous exercise, I'm gonna conditional formatting, new rule, and then use a formula to determine which cells to format. Okay, so what is it that I'm comparing now? I'm comparing the value that the user selected right here on cell A14. So I'm going to click on cell A14, or I'm sorry, I cannot even click there. I just got to type in equal, and cell C14, I'm going to use dollar signs, C14. Okay, and I'm going to say if the value over here equals the value on, and I'm going to go to the, I'm going to go, of course, on the table where I have the information for the sex type, right? So I'm going to click on cell C2, okay? And because I'm clicking there, Excel is giving me the dollar sign. But you saw from the previous exercise, right, that the dollar sign could not be in front of the number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove it. And then again, the concept over here is that I'm locking cell C. Okay. And why do I want to do that? Because again, Excel is going to travel through each one of these cells of my selection, beginning with cell A2. When Excel gets to cell A2, Excel is not going to compare the entry over here, Mark Shannon, against the letter F on, say, on cell A14. What Excel is going to do is, on this particular Excel, Excel is going to move over to column C. Why C? Because remember, we put the dollar sign in front of letter C. So when it gets to letter C, is this value equals to F? No, we have an M over here. So this cell is not going to be formatted, right? Then it goes to the next one, cell A3. Again, it's not going to use the value on A3. It's going to go and look at the value on cell C3. Does the value in cell C3 matches the value in cell A14? Yes, the two of them has an F, so this cell will get formatted. And this process is gonna, go through all the different cells, and as a result, all the entries, all the rows over here where the letter F is found on column C on one of these entries will be highlighted, okay? Of course, if I don't forget to specify the formats, right? So let me go back to format. And now I'm gonna pick the yellow color over here, click OK, click OK. And now when I come back here and the user clicks on the M or the F, oops, again, I must have done something wrong over here with my formula. Let me just go back to it. Manage rules and C40. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I guess. Let's say I'm doing these errors in purpose so you guys can see where the error is located. So who can tell me what's wrong with my formula there? Anyone get this one? It should be A14. Yes, of course. Yeah. Why why did I use C14? I have no idea. There's nothing right here on C14. I guess that's what I clicked first when I was trying to do with the mouse, right? But it doesn't make any sense to use C14 on the formula, right? Because C14 doesn't contain the F or the M for female and male. So very good. Oh, I got two right answers over here. All right. So as long as you understand the concept, right? Even if I put the wrong formula over there, should be able to know how to correct it, right? So this is not a C, should be A, of course. And A14, that's what I have the F or the M for female and male. Once I make this correction, then I should be okay. All right. So here we go. All the females are selected now because this is a user selection right here on the slicer. If I click M, then let me just do here M. So now the M's are selected. Now the females are selected. Okay. So as simple as that. What I usually do is I move this slicer over the pivot table, right? So users won't even get confused or even try to change something over there, right? So put it right there. Make M, F, should be okay, right? Now, this is number, remind me, how does the whole row gets highlighted? Yes, because again, when I specify my formula over here, right? For this particular case, I locked column C, okay? And locking column C, again, Adam, what it means is that as Excel start going to each one of these cells, so Excel will start with cell A2, right? So is Mark Shannon equal to the value? Well, just to explain it better, let me just take this over. Let me take it out because now I'm covering A14. So remember, A14 has the F or M, right? So let me go back to the formula for the explanation. So again, Excel travels to cell A2, right? What do we have on A2? Mark Shannon, right? But Excel knows that that the value that you have to compare is not the one on A2, but rather the one on C2. Why the one on C2? Because that's what we tell Excel over here when we lock column C. Okay, so when Excel comes to cell A2, it doesn't use Mark to do the comparison against A14. It uses the value on C2. Still, on C2 you have an M and not an F, so that's why cell A2 doesn't get formatted. But the next one, when Excel goes to A3, again, it doesn't use what's that Silvertay name. It uses whatever is on column C for that particular row. So now in row number 3, column C, we have an F, and the F is a match with this F. So that's why A3 gets formatted, right? Yeah, and it just happens with the other one. All right, so you got it now, Adam. Very good. All right, so number 5 is going to be, because I'm just looking at the time, in case we don't get to do number 5, it's going to be very similar to number 4. The difference is that here, instead of a slicer, we're going to have a drop down, okay, a combo box. All right, but before we do that, we have to go to dates. That's another scenario over here. And the reason we want to use this is because there's going to be another concept over here. There's going to be 2 conditions that I'm going to use. So now what we have is a range of dates over here for, a project that I'm working on. So it starts on May 15, ends on November 9, okay? But I want the users to be able to enter different dates over here for the days that they want to concentrate on. So if they want to see, the activities that happens between August 24 to October 5th, so August 24 to October 5th, I want these entries over here to be highlighted, to be formatted, okay? Now, because we use 2 conditions, that the value of the cell have to be greater than August 24 and less than, in this particular case, what is that, October 5th, or the value on F1. So there is 2 conditions, and that's why we have to use the AND operator. Okay, so that's going to be something new for us now, right? So we go and select the range down to conditional formatting, a new rule that I want to create. But the first thing I'm going to do over here is after I type equals, then I'm going to use the conditional operator and. Okay, so I can specify condition number 1 and condition number 2. So what will be condition number 1? That the first date over here on cell C5 is greater than, so let me click on C5, although rather than clicking, I'm just going to type it in because I don't need the dollar signs. Okay, so I'm going to say that the value of C5, or since I selected starting from B5, so let's make sure Excel looks all the way from B5. Technically, I could start from C5, but let's make sure Excel start from the beginning of the range. So I was saying that the volume B5 is greater than or equal to the starting value on C1. Okay, so that's condition number 1. Condition number 2, and for that I have to put a comma. So for that comma, I will say, again, the cell B5, whatever is on B5, forget that I shouldn't click there because I get the dollar signs. I want to do it without the dollar signs. Should be less than or equal to the whatever the user is going to type on F1. Okay, so again, I'm saying that in order for a cell to be highlighted, it has to be between the dates on C1 and F1. That's basically what I'm saying over here with this formula. Okay, so let's put a formatting over here. Let's use the green color. Okay, and then when I click OK, then only the cells within that range will be highlighted. Okay, again, what's good over here is that, you know, the user can change those dates, right? So if he now wants to see, you know, the activities happen from November, so he can change this here, November 1st, 23. So the first two highlighted values over here won't be highlighted anymore once I finish with the entry. Okay, so the user adjusts the dates over here. The conditional formatting will act on the formula that I created. Okay, so still have you for a few more minutes. So I'm going to try to do number 6. Okay, number 6 is going to be, again, similar to 4, but it's going to use the and condition, and it's going to be a little it's going to be very interesting. So if you have to leave by 2, that's okay, but if you can spare about 5 more minutes, then I will try to cover it. So the way we're going to create this combo box, first of all, right? So you need to have this developer tab on your Excel program. If you don't have it, you have to go over to the, well, you have two ways to do it. You can go to the file menu, right? There you have the options all the way down. Okay, and right here in the middle, you have the option to customize your ribbon. So by default, you don't have the developer selected in Excel. This is how Excel comes. All you need to do is just check developer, click OK. So now you're going to have another tab over here called developer. Okay. Within the developer tab, you have these tools over here called controls. And one of them is the so-called combo box. Okay, so if you want to create a combo box, just click there, and then you just come down here and drag across and down the place where you want to have your combo box. Okay, so as simple as that. Now the combo still doesn't have any values in it. You have to tell Excel which values you want in there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go right here to select the values for the combo box. You can do a right click, and once you right click, you have the format control option. Okay, and then on the input range, you can say, well, I want this range over here to fit the values on the combo box. Once you click OK, and then you click away from it, now you have all these values on the combo box. The only problem with this over here is, as you can see, the values, some of the values are repeated over here, right? So it will be better if you copy over here a list of non-duplicated values, right? And there is a new function in Excel. I think it came up last year, that allows you to easily extract the duplicate. So this is called the unique function. So if I do this and I hit the enter key, then I got the unique values within my selected range. Okay. They didn't come in descending order, so I can combine this with another function. So before unique, I will type sort, okay? And then I will open and close parentheses at the very end. And now I got two functions in one, right? Not only I extracted the unique, but also I sorted the information, okay? And by the way, we can ignore this error over here. So now that I have the list that I need, I can go back to the input to the combo box, and then again do the format control and say, okay, I changed my mind. Now I want to go and grab my list from here. Okay. There's another property over here which is very important, and we're going to use it today, the cell link. I want to click on cell link, and I'm going to select one of these cells over here. I'm going to go to cell H6, okay, and select cell H6 as my cell link. What's going to happen once I do that is, as I start making selections over here, like if I select the first title, you're going to notice on cell H6, right, that it gives me a number 1 because that's the first value on my list. If I select the computer specialist 2, it changes to a number 2, and it will do with director and so on, right? This is important over here because what I want to do on my conditional formatting now, I want to specify two conditions. Number 1, if it is the case, let's do with the ASA first, right? So if I want the analyst to be highlighted, okay, so two conditions have to happen over here: that the value on this cell equals ASA2, and that the value on H6 equals 1, because that's the value that goes on the cell when the user selects the analyst. Okay, so two conditions over there have to be met in order for conditional formatting to kick in. Okay, so let's go and make the selection. All right, and I'm going to switch back to Home tab, and I'm going to go to conditional formatting, new rule, use a formula to determine which cells to format. And here we go with my formula. Again, because there are two conditions, I'm going to start with the AND operator. Okay. Condition number 1 is that the cell on E2, and then again, I'm using the concept of locking column E. Okay. I sorry, say A2, but I meant E2. So the value, oh gee, forgot I cannot use the arrow keys on the keyboard when I'm typing a formula. I always have to use the mouse, okay? So I'm saying on E2, if the value there equals ASA, and you notice that I use the quote to put the criteria there. So if the value there equals ASA2, and so I put a comma, the value of H6 equals 1, only if these two conditions are met. What it means is that somebody selected the associates, the analyst right here on the combo box, right? And if that is the case, then I want to apply a format for the analyst. I'm just going to pick one color here. Okay. So when I click OK, look at this. The analyst now get the formatting that I specified. If I pick the computer specialist right now, then there is no formatting over here because I haven't applied that option for the computer specialist, right? So what it means is that I have to add a second rule. So I'm going to go back to conditional formatting, and now I'm going to specify a new rule. Okay. Before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to manage and edit the one that I created before, because I can copy this. It's going to be very similar. I just need to change the condition for the title, and the index over here will be 2 instead of 1, of course, right? So let me copy that, and then I can create a new rule. Again, use a formula. I'm going to paste. Okay, but now I'm doing for computer specialist. So computer specialist number 2. Okay, so that will be the condition over here. And for the index, instead of a 1, I'm going to use a number 2. Okay, and this is a different rule. I still have to specify the format. So I could use the same color that I used before, or if I want the computer specialist to be formatted with a different color, I can do so. And now I got 2 conditions over here. Okay, I got one for computer specialist. I have one for the associate staff analyst. And now, because over here the computer specialists are selected, so those are the ones that are highlighted. If I go back to analyst, so the analyst will be highlighted. And as of now, if I go to director, then nothing will happen because I still didn't specify the formatting for that. Okay. Why do you need the H1 portion of the formula? That's a good question. Because that's what's driving this selection over here, right? If I don't do that, Adam, that's a very good question, right? If I don't do that, right, I will get the associate staff analyst and the computer specialist, no matter which option is selected here. Okay, so think about that. If I don't put the condition for the for age 6, right? So someone could come and select the director, right? But then I will still have the computer specialist, and I will have the analyst formatted whichever format I specify for them. Okay. Is that clear, or you want me to do it? You want me to preview that situation? Okay, so let's say I highlight here and I go back to conditional formatting, manage rules, right? So I'm going to edit the rule that I created for the computer specialist. So I'm not going to say that I need 2 conditions, right? So it does the, okay, yeah. Let me just do computer specialist, right? So E2, if E2 equals CS2, then don't worry about the selection on age 6. Okay, so let me see. If E2 equals computer specialist 2, then do the blue condition. All right, so let me just click there. So I changed only computer specialist, right? So right now, you see, even though director is the selection there, computer specialist still selected, because, you just say, look, go through this cell. If you find computer specialist, independently of whatever the user selected here, then let me see them formatted, right? So you see, if I go to associate staff analyst, so now I got the computer specialist and the associate, because associate react when they see number 1 on A6, right? But if I go to director, even though director is number 3, then computer specialists are still highlighted. Okay, so let me know if that clarified. Yep. So it's a combination of the 2. Okay, likewise, if I only do the condition for age 6, right? If I don't take the title into account, right? Only highlight for age of when they, well, that will be even worse, because then all the cells will be just highlighted, right? Based on whether you select, so let me just preview it for you. Okay, and I leave you the other as a homework. So I'm gonna delete number 2, right? And I'm gonna go back to number 1. And now instead of the selection for computer specialist, I'm gonna say, okay, so give me a formatting if cell H6 equals 1. Okay, so I do like this, click OK. So when cell H1, I'm sorry, when cell H6 equals 1, then you see that everything here gets selected. If I go to computer specialist, which is number 2, then all the formatting is going to disappear, right? Because it doesn't match H6 being equal to 1. Okay, so that one. So in other words, and I just did this for Adam. So in other words, you have to use the 2 conditions, right, for it to work properly. Over here, I'm just saying, hey, whenever you see a 1 here, then paint everything with blue, right? So once again, if you see a number 1, paint everything with blue. But now they're not making difference between computer specialist and manager. So that's driven by whatever they put on cell. Whatever selection they make here, which reflects on cell H6. All right. So great questions. I mean, this is really good. I have, ever since I found, these extra advanced, as I call it, options that you have, I've been using it, enjoying them. So I'm glad that most of you were able to, stay here until the end. But this is all we're gonna do today. Just gonna quickly go over here and make sure I cover all the topics. Upcoming classes, as I told you. Thank you, Adam. So as I said earlier, there's a pivot table tomorrow. And is it tomorrow? What's today? The 7th? Yeah. And there's the pivot table in person. I'm going to be conducting the visual reports with Power BI. This is like the second version of the Power BI desktop. If you came to the first one, or if you're familiar with Power BI, you may want to come to the in-person creating visual reports. And Mauritius will also have, my bad over here. This should be number 2. Okay, that's my mistake. All right, so more training. I have also this link that I leave over here, and that's going to take you over to a website. So I'm going to follow up with a class for the 621 class. Yeah, I know it's full, and it's thrown a lot of people. I mean, if you are close to 1:30 and take a chance, Jonathan, sometimes people, cancel. But if the class is full, then you have to get back. Yeah, you have to get back to work. Yeah. But we're gonna put this. I'm gonna try to put like more different options, different dates on the next quarter. We're still working on the next quarter. And what I did now is I created this Google file that I'm gonna send you. I'm gonna send you an email probably early tomorrow, and you're gonna have the PowerPoint presentation. You can click on that link that you saw me clicking. As soon as we had the offerings for the next quarter, then this will be updated. So just keep this in mind. And also, you're gonna get the link to go to our website in a few days. Look at the recording. Okay. Any questions you have, you can email my bosses at the email address that you see there. Last but not least, if you can just pull out your cell phone, point it to the QR code. That's going to be all from my end. So once again, thank you for attending, and hopefully I will see you next time.